What is up, guys? Back here again with another video. Today's topic is one I'm kind of excited about. It is kind of my overview and reasons on why Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is my favorite movie and I think is one of the best movies in the franchise. So let's get started. I mean, for this movie I saw it in middle school. I grew up on the prequels. And I walked into the theater, all the excitement. You could still dress up and have lightsabers at my theater. You can't now, unfortunately. But there was a lot of hype behind it, because, I mean, from what the movie was portrayed to be, everyone got pretty hyped up about. So I sit down, little middle school me, and the movie starts after the iconic credits. And the first scene you get is just like this incredible space battle. It was insane. It showed some of the brotherhood and companionship of Obi-Wan and Anakin, some of their strengths and weaknesses, all the clones, super fast, crazy space battle. They crash land. Well, they don't crash land. They land in the hangar bay, take out droids and all this stuff, and then just start moving along on their conquest, and it's just super cool. And then it leads to this nice little slow interaction to start off with Count Dooku. And Anakin's like looking more powerful and more confident than he was in the last movie. Obi-Wan's like, be patient. Let's take this slow. Fight them together. We can, Count Dooku ain't, can't just take him out real easy. And then you get this crazy fight that ensues. Obi-Wan gets knocked unconscious. Anakin's boom, 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 going hit to hit with Dooku. Dooku's understanding that, like, oh shit, Anakin's power has increased. His training's gotten a little bit better, and he can sense the hate and some of the dark side in him at this point, which is something that I feel like a lot of people haven't been able to do, or they have, but they kind of just like pushed it to the side. And then of course, Anakin taps into that Sith power, a little bit of the dark side, and defeats Dooku in combat. And of course, this is another iconic scene to me when you have the Chancellor just sitting back there, and we kind of know, but I didn't know as a kid that, the Chancellor was Sidious. So he's sitting back there and he's just like, do it. Boom! Takes off Count Dooku's head. I was like, what? What just happened? He just executed the man. Super cool though. And you can kind of see like the hatred in Anakin's eyes, the fire and the fury from the battle up to this execution. He's wielding both the lightsabers, red and blue, which kind of signifies, I don't know if it was intentional. I mean, obviously it's Sith versus Jedi, but to me it signified that, like, it's him using his good side of the Force, the light side, and the dark side is signified by him holding both those blades. Super cool. Then of course they go on the escape, try to get out, boom, get caught by Grievous, which was kind of a comical scene, real funny. Anakin's like, oh, I'm gonna practice patience now, and you're like, yeah, Anakin's the good guy, he's practicing patience. And then sure enough, they get caught by Grievous. Big fight ensues. The whole Grievous fight was really cool. He just was like, what's up, I'm sending my minions after you guys ain't even worth it. And then he escapes. The whole like Obi-Wan decapitating the minion, and then it's still just coming back at him. Remember that 100% is a really cool scene. And then of course they escape. They have to crash land. They have to crash the ship. They have to crash land. Anakin's like, all right. He takes control. And I just remember like just chaos, things on fire, splitting in half, smashing into the runway. It was very visually cool, especially as a kid. And even when I go back and watch it now, I still really enjoy this scene of the movie. And then you get the little bit of a slowdown, and then bam! All of a sudden, you realize Anakin's gonna be a father, and you're like, oh my God, that's not the Jedi way. Like, these connections and commitments aren't supposed to be happening, and now they're having a kid. Oh man, a little stressful, and it just kind of adds to kind of the bit of conflict that is already within Anakin. And of course, another iconic moment to me is when he wakes up from his dream. I mean, come on, Hayden Christensen, you know, a little bit of that shirtless action showing that he's a little muscular. He's got them pectorals going, a little bit of that shoulder definition. My man lifts. But he's all stressed out because he's had these visions before, and I was like, oh man, remember the last movie when he had the visions and then he had to go mess up all those Tusken Raiders? Like, what's he gonna do now? Unfortunately for us, he takes it way farther than just killing some Tusken Raiders. Then you have the whole, we grant you the rank of master, but you're not part of the council, which was kind of a big turning point, I think. There was like a lot of build up to Anakin turning, and I think at this point he'd already been losing a little bit of faith in the Jedi, and this kind of really turned it. And then they were like, okay, well, you're a master, but we're not really going to give you any say in what goes on here, which is kind of lame. And then they're like, hey, we know you're a master and you have no say on the council. Time to do some more missions for us. Go spy on the Chancellor, who's one of the few people other than like Obi-Wan who's actually been nice to you, which is obviously all part of the Chancellor's plan. And he was kind of like, yo, why am I spying on the Chancellor? Like, he's not a bad guy. I don't know what the issue is here. So that ensues. Chancellor gains his confidence now, which they kind of played right into the Chancellor's hand, and that shows how smart he really was. And then he goes on his little, luring cycle, bringing him in farther and farther, and Anakin trusts him more, gives him all this information about what's going on in his life. Chancellor can use that against him. The whole talk about Plagueis, which at the time I knew nothing about Plagueis. I knew nothing about any of this. I was still really new and really young. So I was like, oh my god, look, like all this backstory, this lore, this crazy Sith, like what's going on? And still in the back of my mind, I had no idea the Chancellor was the bad guy, but at this point I was like, Chancellor a little weird, something a little weird's going on here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. And then a little bit more back-to-back, blah, blah, blah. We get into the fight with Obi-Wan and General Grievous. This scene was so cool. Sneaks in, sneaks up on General Grievous, drops down the iconic, well, hello there, General Kenobi. And then the fight starts. All the clone troopers burst in. Super cool battle scene. Visually awesome. And then Obi-Wan has to freaking best General Grievous, who's known for just murking Jedi in combat. And then you get to see like, oh, well, Grievous is also like part humanish cyborg thing and gets shot in the heart. And that fight scene was super cool. Another part that really was awesome in my mind was pretty much everything that happened in Kashyyyk. Like, from beginning to end in Kashyyyk, so cool. I love the Wookiees, the armor that the clones are wearing, especially like the scout troopers and stuff, all the camouflage and whatnot. So sick. They're blowing through the water, just Wookiees jumping over barriers, shooting down droids. Yoda's all up there like, I'm smart, I'm Yoda. Acting all cool and in command, and nothing's really phasing them. And then leads us into Anakin telling Windu and part of the council that he thinks Sidious is the Sith Lord, which is interesting because it took that long for anyone to find out, and that's only because the Chancellor wanted Anakin to find out so that he could draw him into the dark side. So that kind of showed how powerful he was. And at this time I liked Windu, I liked Samuel L. Jackson. The whole purple lightsaber thing was really cool to me, so I was rooting for him. The battle starts out and you watch like all these masters just get absolutely destroyed, and Windu's the last one left. And personally, I think he should have probably brought Anakin in on this one, just to show trust and bring faith back to him. And then they probably should have arrested him, not killed him, because obviously that's not the Jedi way. Windu didn't know Anakin had that little not the Jedi way moment in the beginning of the film, so I think that's kind of what, like, he saw that and was like, hey, I did wrong, you know, you're a master, you're a part of the council, you should be better than me. How are you going to do the same thing? And kind of saw it as weakness. Mace Windu just wrecks the Palpatine in combat. He's going to win. He's going to kill the Chancellor. Anakin's like, nah, fam. Boom. Mace Windu dies. I don't know if he actually dies or not. He flies out the window. You're assumed he's dead. And then Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Super sad scene. You're like, oh man. Because you already know he turns, but like this whole movie, I'm like rooting against it because I love Anakin. I love Hayden Christensen so much. Like, I want the character to be good, like change his ways, even though, you know, it's impossible. He turns, becomes Darth Vader. Order 66, just depressing John Williams masterpiece music in the background. Jedi are getting slaughtered left and right. Anakin marches on the Jedi temple and just starts destroying people. Hordes of clones roll in. You're kind of just like super emotional at this scene. Especially like I played the games as well, the Revenge of the Sith game, and you have to like go through and do all this. And I think it's in Battlefront 2 as well, in the story mode, I believe, where you have to go through here and you play as Anakin, and just absolutely wreck kids. And I just remember the powerful emotion that this scene left me, which leads to another really sad scene where you have Obi-Wan and Yoda going and showing up at the temple, killing some straggling clones, and it's where he finds out that like Anakin's the one who did this, and Anakin has turned, and you can see a little bit of like the sadness start to wear in on Obi-Wan's face. And Yoda basically has him, he's like, hey, I have to take on Palpatine, you have to take on Anakin, which obviously, I don't know how the timeline lines up in the movie, but you feel like they would go in like Obi-Wan and Yoda versus Palpatine. Obi-Wan and Yoda versus Anakin. A little duo action to make sure that everybody wins. But Yoda had faith in his power, I guess. Maybe he underestimated Palpatine. I mean, he let him slip by in the Force, pretty much right by him this whole time, so there's that. And then Yoda had faith in Obi-Wan that Obi-Wan could either bring Anakin back or best him in combat. You have a cool scene of Yoda fighting Palpatine. It was real, like, there wasn't like a lot of lightsaber combat, there was some, but it was more just like, look how powerful I am versus how powerful you are, which I thought was really cool. It was very different from some of the fights you'd seen before. And while this is going on, one of the best and most iconic fight scenes of all time happens. You have John Williams blaring in the background, betrayal, master versus Padawan. And it's just like 10 minutes of the sickest fight that you ever see. Lava, flips, lightsaber combat. Like, you feel the emotion in the scene, the music helps, the whole build-up of the last couple movies helps, what you know from the original movies. You have the whole, like, I have the high ground. I know what I'm doing, basically. Like, hey, if you make this jump, I'm gonna take you out. Like, you still have a chance. Like, throughout this whole fight, Obi-Wan's just full defense mode. He's still, he doesn't want to have to take out Anakin unless it really comes to it. He's still trying to, like, turn him the whole time because of how much love he has for him. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. I mean, we still get a really cool scene. Anakin fucking taking his cyber arm and trying to claw his way up. The emotion and pain in Obi-Wan's eyes. It's like one of the best scenes in Star Wars, hands down. And it's one that, like, when you think, for me, when I think Star Wars, I think of this movie and this fight scene and the emotion, the overall combat, the amount of choreography that went into this scene. Like, if you watch the behind the scenes, they're just going at it, practice. It just showed how dedicated everybody was. Then, of course, the twins are born, and so is Darth Vader in full costume. you get the iconic crushing with the Force, the no scene, and yeah, a new, less improved Vader is born. A new Vader that's easier to control. Because I think, yeah, like Anakin's Vader, when he still has himself fully intact, is way more powerful than this Darth Vader could have ever been, from what I know. But yeah, you know, there's so many, like, I went through the movie and I was like trying to pick and choose stuff, but there's a lot of slow stuff in this movie, and you might criticize some of the acting, but I think, to me, it's well done. Everything fits perfectly in its place. There's a lot of scenes I left out. These are kind of just the ones that stuck the most to me, and whenever I think of Revenge of the Sith, these are like the big iconic moments I think of. So yeah, if you guys have any scenes that you think I left out that should have been in there, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? And as always, may the Force be with you.